John, no guest this week. Maybe we're guests of each other. It's an obvious week not to bring somebody in and force something. Trade deadline is on Thursday. We're going to do Yankees, Mets, everything. What is your thought as we go into this?
Well, there's a ton of trades to go. In fact, almost all of them are to go. We've had basically 5 meaningful trades at this point. The Yankees have made 2 of them. The Mets have made 1 of them. But none of the other teams are doing much yet, and we've got a ton of pitchers still available. Not one pitcher traded, so there's going to be a ton of action in the next 3 days. We better keep our phones close to us because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, we'll keep our phones close, our ear to the ground. But today we're going to talk about what the Mets and Yankees have done, what we think they're going to do, and all the big issues around MLB as the trade deadline approaches. If you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. Hey, if you're watching or listening, thanks as always for that. Just a heads up, John and I taped this program before the news came down that Cleveland closer Emmanuel Clase was placed on disciplinary leave for his potential involvement in some gambling issues. John and I talked about Clase as potentially one of the relief pitchers who could get traded in this market. So if you hear us talking about that, you'll understand why. Well, it's hard to get us in the same place at the same time ever, tougher on deadline week, but Jon Heyman, Joel Sherman doing our podcast, the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. We're talking like we have to put this in some perspective because who knows what's happening as we're sitting here, John. It's early Monday afternoon. The trade deadline is Thursday at 6 p.m. Dave Dombrowski said to me the other day, president of baseball operation of the Phillies, John, he said, when the weekend's done, you're a lot closer and you're still very far away because teams are going to do still a lot of bluffing and a lot of until we get to 6 p.m. Both of us have been through this a lot. Let's start with the Yankees. We were both there over the weekend. They were playing the Phillies. They lost 2 out of 3. They mainly continued to look bad as a baseball team. I know we both tackled it over the weekend. How much do you go all in? Even as the defending AL champions, even when you're the New York Yankees, the logo, everything, interlocking NY. John, I think they're not going all in. What do you hear? What would you do?
Yeah, I think they're doing the right thing. I mean, I was saying go get Suarez. I was at the All-Star game. I mean, he was leading the league in RBIs at the time, second in home runs to Ohtani. He looked like the guy to get. They obviously needed to fill third base. We knew they were going to fill third base, but after seeing them a little bit more, I know they're 4-5 since the break. Not terrible, but they've continued to look not great. I think they're doing the right thing by not giving up big prospects. And I think to get Suarez, first of all, they had to wait a few more days, and but they could have gotten an interim third baseman to fill up that black hole that's been there, but they would have had to wait a few more days. They didn't know they were going to get him for sure. They felt they had a road to get McMahon, and I think they probably end up doing the right thing. I know McMahon's not the hitter that Suarez is, but he is a better defender. I'm not giving him extra points because he's got 2 more years. Let's see how he does. He is hitting .222, but they filled what they needed to fill. I think they've got a shot here. I mean, do I think they look like a championship team? I don't think they do. So I'm with them in not giving up a Schlittler or a Flores or one of their really more coveted prospects. At this point, they gave up 2 pitchers who are pretty well thought of, but they're in high A ball. So I think that was the right move. They kind of hedged a little bit, and they filled the spot.
John, let's not bury the lead. They also had terrible news on Saturday. They cloaked it as good news, ultimately. They lost Aaron Judge for a minimum of 10 days. That's, the question I asked Aaron Boone is, you're not losing just a player. You're losing your best player and arguably the best player on our planet for at least 10 days. And then it creates all kinds of issues coming back because he could only DH. One of the guys who's actually hitting right now is Stanton. The idea that he's going to go in the outfield, I find that ludicrous, that they would risk him physically and with all their defensive problems. I mean, we've seen him run all out on the bases, which is to say we haven't seen him run all out in a couple of years. So I don't believe he's going into the field. John, let's do it real quick. They did make 2 trades. McMahon and Amed Rosario. Amed Rosario is a guy they've had interest in before. They made an offer when he went to Tampa. He has a certain skill set. He can move around the field a lot. He could hit left-handed pitching pretty well. That's why he's here. This is the 3rd straight deadline he's been traded for. So he has this skill that people look for at this time of year. The question's about McMahon. I'm with you. It's exactly what I heard. They were afraid of not getting on the board and then getting dragged to Wednesday, Thursday, and then not getting Suarez anyway, and then looking around and saying, we still have the black hole. What do we do? They've liked McMahon for years. to me, I look at McMahon and I see two potential roads, and I wrote about it. One, and if you watch the last 2 days, is the Scott Brocious one. I mean, you could argue they got their best game at third base in 2025 yesterday out of McMahon, right?
He was great.
He was great on
I
both
was there.
sides
It
of
was
the
fantastic.
ball, right? Is Scott Brocious, original team, third baseman, asked to be like the number 3 hitter, miscast. Hey, you've got to be a star. And he plummeted, got traded to the Yankees, and they said, hit 8th or ninth, just field the hell out of third. If you hit 240, that's gravy. And it turned out asking less got more. But McMahon's profile is also kind of Joey Gallo's profile, which is never plays an important game. I mean, they were in the playoffs in 18. They're the worst team in baseball by a lot since then. He's been part of that. Low batting average, high strikeouts, can hit lefties. John, what do you think about Ryan McMahon?
Well, I think he's going to be better than Gallo. I know that's not saying that much, but and they certainly didn't give up as much for him to get him. He is, I think, a great defender. So there is a big value in that. So I do think his salary is reasonable at $16 million going forward the next couple years. I think he will be better than that. I don't know if he's going to be Brocious. Brocious was a hero in October. We're not going to predict that. I do like him better batting near the bottom of the order. I know he's batted ninth, I think, the first game, and moved up to seventh. He does strike out a lot. He's not going to be a great offensive player, but if he's a great defensive player and he's an average offensive player, that's a big improvement.
That's a huge improvement on what they had, and they had to improve there. They hardly had a AAA platoon, much less a major league platoon. And you highlighted it. You kept pointing out when they both had the exact same average, which like 167 or something, which was amazing. Before we jump to the Mets, they have work to do this week. The Yankees, even if they do it on the margins more with secondary prospects. They have to probably get a starter. They probably have to get 2 relievers. One of them left-handed would be ideal. I am reported on our Plus site this morning. They're still looking for one more bat. It's not their priority. Nobody should confuse that. Pitching, but they'd love one more righty guy who can play around, including shortstop, because I assume Peraza isn't on the roster after 6 o'clock on Thursday, and their backup shortstop now is Rosario, who I guess could go and stand there. But like Boone made it clear yesterday, he doesn't see Rosario as a shortstop. So I think like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa or Jose Caballero, they really like Willie Castro. I think Houston's going to make a big play for Willie Castro, though. Why don't we stick to pitching? Just because they've done 2 bats already. Where do you think they go? How deep? Do you think they get 1 and 2? You think they get a starter and 2 relievers?
I do. There are a ton of starters out there. They aren't big names. The big names that are out there, I doubt they get moved. So I'm not seeing Gore or Ryan get moved. Cease maybe, but I think they'll get a depth piece in the rotation, and I do think they'll get bullpen. I mean, their bullpen until yesterday when it was very good. I mean, what a surprising game, right? We don't have Judge playing. Wheeler's starting for the Phillies, and the Yankees end up winning that game 4-3. Not expected. Bullpen was outstanding. Devin Williams looks good now.
Yeah.
Luke Weaver generally has been good, but I do think they definitely need bullpen. They need a lefty, and I think they need another big arm, big right-handed arm near the back of that pen, because it does seem that they've been short. Now, I know that Cruz, Leiter are working their way back. They may help, but I wouldn't count on that. So, I mean, there are a ton of relievers out there. That's the plus. The negative is there's going to be a lot of competition for those relievers. I think they're going to get what they need to get because they are relievers, right? They're going to be able to do without giving up the big prospects. Obviously, Spencer Jones not going anywhere for any of these guys. George Lombard Jr. not going anywhere. I don't think Schlittler's going anywhere for any of these guys, but I think they'll be able to get it done and give themselves a chance. That said, they don't look like a championship team now, but these things switch around, right? I mean,
Detroit, right? Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they've lost, I don't know where they lose 11 of 12 until finally winning.
Houston's turned the wrong way. Houston's got swept over the weekend by Oakland, right?
Right.
Oakland, the A's.
Right.
Yeah.
They've had a ton of injuries. You can still call them Oakland.
Yeah.
They've had they've had a lot of injuries, Houston.
Yeah.
The Mets were the best record in baseball at one point, something like 45-25. Then they lost 10 of 11 or something like that. So every team has gone back and forth. The Mets are now up, obviously. But, right now the Yankees look down, but you can't count them out. Judge will come back, we think, presumably. In 20 days, he'll be a full player. 10 days, they think he'll be back. So, I mean, I think they'll be able to get what they need.
If the Yankees made one trade with St. Louis and got both Phil Maton and Steven Matz, they got a righty and a lefty. I looked at Maton. Maton's striking out 30% of the hitters he's facing.
Been great.
And we know he's great in the clubhouse also because we
Right.
covered him with the Mets last year.
And I just carrying that. People complain about the postseason. I think he was worn out.
He was heavily used. The Mets were
had to
playing postseason games in September last
Right,
year.
right.
So, like, just to get in, right?
Right.
We're in
They had
Atlanta at the end of the year.
And he had no choice. I'm
Yeah.
not blaming Mendoza, and I think Maton is he's got guts. He'd be good.
Yeah, let's transition to the Mets because I would think that they might be in play for another Maton reunion also. They also, I think, philosophically, John, had the same thought as the Yankees. We need to get on the board. We have a couple of things we're trying to do. We want a power lefty who they assume the division goes through the defending division champions, the Phillies, we saw it this weekend with Harper and Schwarber against the Yankees. If you don't have a lefty who could go out there and deal with those guys, they're murder. Right. And so Soto has, and now Rayleigh have good histories against those guys. They also have good histories against Freeman and Ohtani. You got to get through the Dodgers probably to get to the World Series, as the Mets found out last year. So I think they wanted to get on the board with someone they thought was a power lefty. Will somebody better get out in the marketplace? Who knows? And now it allows them to play is there a starting pitcher out there does Joe Ryan actually get traded? Because he'll be in our postseason rotation. Is there a way to get to a center fielder that we like for a price we like? And we could be like maneuverable. Like what's going to come up? Like Houston desperately needs a left-hand hitter. I'm not reporting anything, but like if the Mets are able to say pull Brandon Lau from Tampa, who they have some interest in, could they trade Jeff McNeil to Houston or something? So I think by getting on the board with the key thing they needed, a lefty late game reliever who could deal with good hitters, it allows them to be very opportunistic over the next 4 days. What do you think?
Things look great at the moment for the Mets, but as we've said, they switch around. Sometimes it looks great one day, not so great the next. They still have work to do. They're not. I don't believe that they're going to give up any of their real big prospects, and they're all doing great right now, right? Between McClain, Tong, Sproat, Jet Williams, they're all having great seasons and they're playing fantastically right now. So I don't see them adding a Ryan or a Gore, and I'm not sure that Ryan or Gore move. I do think that they could add another lefty in the pen. I think they are focused on the pen at this moment, even though they've added Soto. Coulombe would be perfect. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a ton of teams looking for Coulombe. He's having a great year with the Twins right now. So far, it hasn't felt like the Mets and Twins have made a lot of progress. I know they've talked about a lot of things. They checked in on Buxton. They have Ryan. They have certainly excellent relievers in Griffin Jackson. They have Johan Duran and Coulombe. So they have a lot to talk about, but I'm not feeling that they've made any progress on any of that yet. But Coulombe would be a great one for the lefty. There are a lot of relievers, just like with the Yankees out there, other relievers. I feel like, Diaz has had a couple rough moments lately. He's generally been great, but the pen is still number one for me for them. I think in center field, you're going to have to look for a small upgrade. I'm not saying...
I think Cedric Mullins is an upgrade.
Yes, but to me, that's a small upgrade. Either Mullins or Luis Robert. And I know they've talked to both of those teams.
John,
to me, they're small upgrades because I think McNeil's done okay, but you want a center fielder in there, right?
Yeah, does a championship team really have Jeff McNeil?
No, I think
right. I think they need a real center fielder. Can I make a case? I made this with Dexter Henry yesterday on his show. Look, I get why David Stearns was brought in, which is to make the Mets Dodgers East, a team that is in the playoffs almost every year, has real championship things. So always have the big picture. Don't just give away prospects for stuff. I know who David Stearns is coming from Milwaukee. He is much more comfortable trading for Ryan Stanek and Phil Maton, feeling like it's 25 innings. Who knows who's going to pitch 25 good innings between now and the end of the season? I don't want to give up good prospects for it. But John, the Mets haven't won since 1986. This new ownership is trying to show a different game. They've made the playoffs in back-to-back years twice before in their history. They haven't won a division since 2015. Whoever they like in that Cleveland-Minnesota quartet, Clase, Kate Smith, Griffin Jacks, Yoan Duran, I think they should make a bold move. Because also Diaz could walk out at the end of the year. I think both of us think Steve Cohen will write a check and keep him. But just in case you have a little leverage, and if the worst thing you have those guys for the last 6 outs this year and next year and the year after, I'm okay with it because Diaz could go like this. If I have a backup plan, I think they should be bold and get the relief pitcher they think is best. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. We're not certain at this point with the guys having 2 years to go between
Yes.
Cade Smith and Johan Duran and Clase and Griffin Jacks. They're not free agents after the year that these guys are going to be traded. So they are listening. It would take something big. I mean, they're not going to give up any of those 4 prospects that I named. I believe for any reliever, I don't think they'll do it. I'll be okay if they do Helsley, who's comparable great back end guy, and he was a free agent after the year. I do believe they'll be able to keep Diaz. I mean, I can't see him leaving, right? We got the song here, the trumpet, all that. Is he really going? I guess somebody else can borrow the trumpet or whatever, but it feels like this is a marriage that's not going to break up. And if Steve Cohen has to add a year at $20 million, he'll do it. To me, that seems reasonable. I'm okay as long as they get one guy, more guy for the back end.
Yeah, John, I'll just end the segment with this by saying both teams, like if over the last 10 years, if I told you, as long as the Yankees didn't trade Judge and the Mets didn't trade Alonso, they literally could have, like, would it be bad if they had traded David Peterson? Yeah, it looks like he's a good starter. It would have been bad if the Yankees traded Luis Severino or Gleyber Torres or whatever. It's like, there have been two difference makers in all these guys they've protected over the time are especially Judge and Alonso. Everyone else, like Spencer Jones, like his upside is probably Adam Dunn with defense. That's really good, by the way. That's the upside for a guy who might strike out over 200 times in the major leagues. I get it. Maybe he'll be a star. We didn't know who Judge was. They know best, but they have protected the Yankees in particular, a lot of people over the last 10, 15 years, and then watched it go bad on the vine. Championships are forever. It's hard to play Major League Baseball. Go get more prospects, whatever.
Yeah, I'm kind of I get that more with the Mets than the Yankees. To me, the Yankees have too many flaws right now to really go all in and give up a Spencer Jones and affect your future.
How about Joe Ryan?
Adam Dunn with defense.
I mean, if Joe Ryan's really isn't,
I mean, just Spencer Jones got
say Joe Ryan's available.
Yeah,
would you trade Spencer Jones for Joe Ryan?
That one
I'm just saying. I'm not saying to do it for a relief pitcher.
To me, I would do the Mets guys more. I think that fits the Mets better because I feel like
I think the Mets should go for it.
I think the Mets have a shot.
Yeah,
I mean, the Yankees shot to win the World Series. A lot of things are going to have to fall right at this point, right? Their fundamentals still aren't great. Can you fix that immediately? They are too strikeout prone, too dependent on the home run. They're too inconsistent for me. So, I'm not sure I'd do it if I were the Yankees. And I think Spencer Jones might be a big star. The Mets guys, I think Tong's going to be really good. I think McLean's going to be good. I've seen them only briefly on tape or whatever. Futures game, little stuff here and there. But I might consider it if you're talking about Joe Ryan. Certainly I would. But it's going to take multiple to get Joe Ryan.
I get it. Multiple. These are New York teams. They could paper it over prospects by buying major league players if they have to. We are going to talk about the rest of the major leagues. We did a lot on New York here. We'll go through what we think about the trade deadline, who's going, who's staying, etc. If you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. John, Liar's Poker got to end at some point. We are going to get players traded between now and the deadline on Thursday. Best pitcher who gets traded is who?
I'm going to go with Edward Cabrera, and I think there's a decent chance he does not get traded, but the hitters love him. They think he is terrific. Marlins are doing great right now. I mean, I'm not sure that he or Alcantara get traded. Alcantara, for another reason, he's not performing to sell low. I don't think he'll get traded. Cabrera, I'm not convinced he's getting traded either, but at this point, I don't think Gore or Ryan is getting traded. I'm not sure on C, so I'm going to go with Edward Cabrera of the Marlins.
I think part of the problem is who's a good starter. Sandy Alcantara historically is a good starter. Zach Gallen is historically a good starter. Those are the two guys with the worst ERAs among qualified starters. Dylan Cease is traditionally a good starter. He hasn't had a very good year for Dylan Cease. I'm going to go with Dylan Cease because I just think that A.J. Preller can help himself but get very involved in a trade deadline. He doesn't have a lot of maneuverable chips. And can he use Cease in some way to answer multiple questions? Left field and starting pitching depth. So I think that's in play. Best bat.
I'll say Suarez. At this point, I do believe Arizona's selling. You mentioned him last time we talked as the best bat. I mean, he's up there in RBIs, home runs. He is a terrific bat. I know he hasn't played great the last few days. I don't know. He's probably distracted by our talk and everybody else's talk. He is a great offensive player, and he's probably the best bat.
it feels like he's the best bat, over the Ryan O'Hearns and whatever else is going to get moved. I mean, Baltimore's obviously going to be probably the biggest seller here. They got a lot of walkier players like Mullen, like O'Hearn. But Suarez has been so good since the All-Star break of last year. Can I say that mystery hitter we haven't thought of yet gets traded? Like, I just think that this is a market where we're going to get surprised. Like, you and I are going to be at the network on Thursday, and we're going to get that text from your guy or my guy.
So what
whoever.
you're thinking of Yandy Diaz, or you have anybody in mind?
I think they're not trading Yandy Diaz. I think that look, they almost traded Brandon Lowe last year. I think he's very much in play this year. I think the Mets have some real interest in him. I think the Astros have some real interest in him. I keep looking for who the player is. Here's the one. I don't think the Guardians like to do this at this time. They do like to do their business in the offseason. I'll go with Stephen Kwan.
That would be great. I mean, he's a fantastic player. I think it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I think it's an off season.
It's a good pick. I like it.
Let's take Suarez off the table. Most likely to be traded.
Most likely to be traded?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I do think I think Gallen and Kelly are going to go. I've seen where it written they only have to trade one of them. I think that they will go. I do believe it. At this point, I think the Diamondbacks, unfortunately for them, they've had so much bad luck. I think they have to be a seller.
Yeah, I think all the Oriole guys who are in their walk-year go, Charlie Morton, Zach Eflin, O'Hearn, Mullen. I just think that they...
Laureano, Sugano, it's a long list. They got a lot of guys.
And by the way, I'm sure you're hearing, like, there's a lot of teams on Laureano. He's having a
having a
good
great year.
season. He maybe can't play he would be almost perfect for the Mets if they thought he could still play center. I keep asking scouts who cover the Orioles, and they're like, not anymore. He's really a corner guy, but he's a good corner guy.
He used to be a great center fielder.
Right.
That would have been good for the Mets, but not here. I think it'll be Robert or Mullins, another Oriole, Mullins for center field for the Mets.
Yeah, and I kind of like Cedric Mullen. I know he's not having as good a year, but again,
metrics aren't very kind to him.
But you know what? Eyeball scouts will tell you he's better than the metrics. So, like, I don't know what that...
I've seen him make great plays against the New York team, so...
Yeah, I wonder if the Mets are such a metric team they wouldn't go for him, because I wonder if he's kind of in the McMahon thing. If you ask him to hit, like, 7th or 8th for you and be like, just play the heck out of center field, steal some bases, pop some homers, I wonder if the Mets would get a lot out of him at the end of the year. Who do you think is going to be the player who draws the most interest here? Like, the most sought after player in this marketplace?
I think it's Suarez. I think, the Yankees are out of it now, obviously, but you've got the Cubs, you've got the Tigers to some degree. The Brewers are mentioned. I think that's probably a long shot. The Phillies need a right-handed bat, right? Bohm is out at the moment. The Mariners said to still be involved in this. I think we got a ton of teams that are still looking at third base. I don't think the Dodgers are. Muncy will be back, but still got a half dozen teams in on Suarez.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the most sought-after players all don't get traded, and it's the 4 relievers in Minnesota and Cleveland. I'm not even sure Minnesota's trading Louis Varland. I asked somebody, well, what about the next step down, Louis Varland and Brock Stewart, other guys who have some control beyond this year, and they're like, yeah, the price is too high. Like, somebody kind of hinted it to me what the David Bednar price was the other day, the Pittsburgh closer, and I was like, really? And the guy was like, yeah, and they haven't moved yet. And I was like, oh, well, he ain't going to move if that's the price. So I think, again, that's why I say liar's poker as we get closer to this.
Yeah, it all comes down to the end because we got a lot of teams looking at relief, and there are a lot of relievers who are potentially out there. So everybody's holding out for a huge price right now. At the end, you're going to have to just make that decision. I mean, if you're Pittsburgh, don't you have to trade these guys?
You got to get some bats.
Right.
Before Paul Skeens is off your team.
Right.
Like, go for it. The guy's great.
Right, and they've got the kid Chandler in the minors, and Jones. Skeens is fantastic.
Do they trade Mitch Keller in this marketplace?
I think his value is so high, and it's higher to somebody else than them because they're not competing this year or contending. So I think they should. Will they? I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, just it popped in my head on Suarez. I think the Cubs. Where do you think he ends up?
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's perfect for them, right? They do believe Shaw's going to be their third baseman.
And he's played really well recently.
Lately, he's done better, but I think that they would like that upgrade. I mean, their offense has been one of the best in the game. So if you get Suarez, that's pretty good, and that can combat the fact that their pitching isn't spectacular. It's slightly above average on the starting, and they've pieced together a pretty good bullpen. Starter might be their other thing that they probably
they
need to
do
do.
it. Yeah.
But to me, the fact that he's got an expiring contract, I think that works for them.
Yeah. Last two things. Why don't we do this? Excluding the New York team, who do you think is the team that is working the hardest to do multiple things?
Well, probably the Padres, AJ Preller. I mean, that's an easy one, right? He's all over the map. He's been trying to get Jaron Durant for like 2 years. It just doesn't appear it's gonna happen for him. He probably needs to move on at some point, but they need to get a left fielder. They need to get a catcher. They need to shore up the rotation a bit. I mean, they were even looking at bullpen. They had 3 all-star relievers. Nobody else had 3 all-star relievers, and they were looking at bullpen. So they do the most, I think. But they don't. They have a little bit of financial constraints too. So
And they've used so much of their farm system
right.
to get to this point. I mean, I don't
Right.
discredit it because they have
They
made
still have some pitchers. I mean, they're not going to trade this Leo DeVries, who's the number 2 prospect.
Ethan Dallas, the catcher, is
Yeah, he might
go,
trade him.
right?
Right?
Yeah.
He's injured, right?
Yeah. The team I would go with is a little bit of a surprise team. The Dodgers were trying so hard to do nothing at this trade deadline, to overstock in the offseason. And the reality is they know they need a bullpen guy and they need an outfielder. And I just think they've got so many of this pitching indexed in the minor leagues. Some of them have to go. And the question is, do they end up with a good reliever? We mentioned his name earlier, Phil Maton. Or do they end up with like a Duran or someone like that because they're willing to put some stuff together? And I think they'll try for one more outfield bat. Michael Conforto hasn't been what they were hoping he'd be this year. I think they want to add one more hitter. I just think they're in that period now. They're flush with prospects. They want to make a run at a championship every year. They made a lot of trades last year with a very good team. I know they wanted to sit this one out. I say they don't sit it out.
No, they will not sit it out. They spent $400 million. They're in it to win it. They're having a little bit of a disappointing season. It's funny that NL West that we were praising up and down, all those teams are now slightly disappointing, right? I mean, none of them has really met expectations. So I think that they do. Bullpen, I mean, the Dodgers, they're not getting just some average guy. If they go out and get somebody, they're going to go out and get a star, particularly a pitcher. So I do think they'll get one of the big pitchers, whether it be Helsley or somebody else.
Yeah, I agree with you. John, last thing. Let's take no Yankees, Mets. Let's take the Orioles off the board because I think we both agree they're going to do a lot of selling. Do you have another team you think is doing a lot of selling?
Well, that was my pick, but I'll say
I'm sorry I did that to you then.
The Pirates, they should do a lot, right? I mean, they've got guys that people are going to be interested. Heaney will go somewhere. Connor Falefa will go somewhere, but I do think they should look seriously and trade Keller. They should certainly think about trading O'Neal Cruz. I don't think that's going to happen. It came out briefly that the Yankees were looking at it. That seems like it's very, very unlikely to happen. I think they should look at it. They're obviously not trading Skeens, but they have other players that they could trade. Certainly Bednar, they should trade him. It's okay that the price is high now, but eventually they're going to have to figure it out and trade him. Same with Santana. They made a nice signing on Santana.
And he's got one more year left of control.
Well,
so, yeah.
But he is a reliever.
Yeah.
We believe that he's going to be great year to year.
He should definitely get moved in this market.
They've got some guys that they can move.
I'm going to stick in the NL Central. Even though they're 1 game over 500 and they're 3.5 out of a wild card, the Cardinals are moving at least Helsley, Matz, and Maton. So they're moving a closer, a lefty, and a righty, so they're going to be very popular. And the term I heard multiple times yesterday when I asked about them is they're open. Tell us what your offer is. So you know how many teams would love to get like Brendan Donovan, right? So I don't think he's going anywhere. But teams are going to try because he's like Tommy Edman last year. He's the kind of player that any championship level team would feel just makes us so much better. And so I think they'll get a lot of interest on him. Does somebody who needs innings go for Miles Michaelis in this marketplace? I think Sonny Gray makes too much money.
It makes a lot of money
to
He's
move.
got a good contract.
They've got 2 lefty relievers in Reyes and King, and everyone needs a lefty. Those guys aren't pitching great, especially King, but do they? I think the Cardinals are going to be, and what's interesting really to me is John Mozeliak is in his last year, and you would think like if he was close, he might try to go out in a let's try to win. But I keep hearing they're going to move at least the relievers, so I wonder if it goes deeper. But the curious thing is he's making the decision, even if they're sellers. So he leaves October 1st, and Chaim Bloom comes in. And shouldn't Chaim Bloom be making the sell trades?
Well, they probably should be working together at the very least. Yeah, it is a very interesting situation. They are around 500 once again. I mean, this is a maybe not a big market, but it's a pretty solid revenue team, and I don't see the reason for them necessarily to trade those guys with years of control. I do think, Maton, Helsley, Matz, they make sense, but I think it's going to be difficult for them to trade Donovan. Astros want him. The Dodgers want him. There are a lot of
Everyone
teams.
should want him.
Right.
He's such a great chess piece on the board because he does
Very
everything and he does
versatile
everything
guy.
well. Yeah, he's Tommy Edman-ish. He does everything and does everything well. Look, we're going to be very busy these next few days talking about this. What we're going to do in a couple of minutes is play Hit and Error if you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. John, hit or error?
Well, I'm going to sound a little hypocritical here. I'm going to give an error to teams that never wanted to give up prospects, because I've said the Yankees shouldn't give up their big prospects. I don't think the Mets will give up their big prospects, but I mean, everybody is holding so close to these prospects, and you alluded to it earlier. Not everybody turns into Aaron Judge or Pete Alonso or a superstar. Most prospects end up being suspects. That's fair. I mean, look at the previous top 100 lists. There aren't a lot of Mike Trouts on these lists. So I would like to see more teams be more aggressive in going after big-time players and being willing to give up something for the future. But I think everybody's got this idea. They don't want to be the next guy to give up Pete Crow Armstrong, this PCA effect that I see out there. I mean, that was a fluke. I mean, nobody knew that Pete Crow Armstrong was going to be this great NL MVP candidate. The Mets didn't know it, and certainly even the Cubs didn't know. We had Jed Hoyer on their podcast. He had no idea. He was trying for Matt Allen. He would have taken Beatty, Mauricio, anybody. He was like the fifth choice. Eventually, he got to him and give him credit for having him on the list at all, but he wasn't even a top 100 prospect. So I think everybody's fearful that they're going to give up somebody who's going to turn into an MVP candidate. But guess what? There's only 5 MVP candidates in each league, really, right? Or, there are a lot of great players, but these prospects, you never know which ones are going to be good. I want to see teams be a little bit more aggressive than they are. I mean, right now we're sitting here on Monday. There hasn't been a pitcher traded at this point, right? We're 3 days away. I mean, somebody's got to get moving.
John, Yordan Alvarez has been an MVP candidate. The Dodgers traded him for Josh Field. You know what the Dodgers have done? They've won 2 World Series since. You could survive it. They traded O'Neal Cruz for nothing. And by the way, the Mets might win a World Series this year, even having traded Pete Crow Armstrong. Good organizations, get over it, and most of the time, you hold on to Oswald Peraza, and he turns into Oswald Peraza, right? Or Anthony Volpe, and he turns into this version of Anthony Volpe instead of going for the World Series with Luis Castillo.
Peraza. How about this?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for the guy. I mean, he's going to almost be off the roster. They just keeping him.
Yeah.
I think they just kept him because he was out of options. I don't know what they're going to do, but you got to win. He can't hit.
They're out of options with him. They can't keep doing this.
At some point, you got to give up. I know it doesn't look good. A guy you wouldn't trade. You want to hold back in the Luis Castillo talks. And Luis Castillo is not the greatest pitcher ever, but he would have helped somewhat.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know with these prospects. And the Yankees they've been pretty good about the guys they've traded away. They've traded away a lot of players who were looked at as at least somewhat marginal prospects, and not that many have turned out to be something. I mean, I know in the Gallo trade, 1 or 2 of them are doing okay, but not really burning them.
The Yankees got to the World Series after giving up what they gave up in the Gallo trade. The Mets got to the NLCS last year after giving up Pete Crow Armstrong. Is Pete Crow Armstrong the ideal guy to be playing center field for the Mets now? Yeah. Is Josh Smith a great choice to be playing third base for the Yankees? Yeah. But if you're a big market team, sometimes it's going to cost you these kind of people to take a shot at it. It's not the Baseball America Championship. It's the World Series. You've got to try to win the World Series. So, John, I am saying amen to you. The 2 guys we're not trading here, Brian Rikowski, who makes us look so good in the pictures, Tommy Hogan, who's our producer every week and does such a great job. Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, please rate and review us. These things really do help us if you want to help the show. The New York Post Sports YouTube page, give us a view. And I'm sure, John, we're going to come back and do this again later in the week when we know where everyone is ended up. But stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman.